You're listening to Crazy Shit in Real Estate. You'll be amazed at all these wild but true situations that others have found themselves in. Because on this show, you'll hear uncensored, unbelievable stories from the world of real estate. I'm Leigh Brown. Let's dive right in.
I'm Leigh Brown. This is Crazy Shit in Real Estate. Today's conversation, frankly, goes in about 14 different directions. You're going to love it. You're going to get inspired, and you're going to actually probably take a page full of notes from Kilmer out of the Kansas City market. So enjoy the conversation. I'll see you on the other side.
Hello.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Hey, thank you for working with me on a couple of scheduled jumping arounds. It looks like it worked out for you and for me too. So yay.
Yeah, no worries. I know how it goes. So
that's real estate life. If anything is, it's the ability to know that your calendar means nothing.
Yes. Yeah, it's all just penciled in.
So thank you for coming on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited. I've been following you on TikTok for quite some time, I think. So
what's funny about that is I don't have TikTok on my phone because I don't want the Chinese Communist Party to have access to my phone, but my team does. They take my videos and put them over there. And so it's like my alter ego.
That's funny. You're like, it's just little mice, make it happen for me. Like,
I was like, I feel like I should make the content and other people can handle it. And I also know my personality. If I'm in that app, I will sit there and fall down the rabbit hole.
Yep.
All right. So tell my audience a little bit about the Rachel Kilmer Show. Where are you from? How long have you been in and around real estate? Give us a little bit of backstory.
Yeah, well, I am based out of the Kansas City market. I'm licensed in both Kansas and Missouri. We straddle both states. I've been a real estate agent for 3 years. October was my 3-year anniversary of getting my license. Yeah, it's been a wild ride my first 3 years. So
no kidding.
yeah, very, very grateful. I knew the statistics when I started that it's like, 80% drop out in their first 5 years. So we're almost there, over halfway's there. So
I mean, it's actually 85% in the first 2 years.
Is it?
You're already in the top 15%. So woo-hoo.
Yeah.
But you've already experienced the thing the public doesn't know about real estate, which is that it is insanely hard. It is very rewarding, but oh my gosh, you have to have so much strength to survive in this business. So I'm really curious to know, first of all, what did you do before real estate that gave you some perspective, some experience, or just the inspiration to get into this crazy field?
Yeah, well, the first 6 years of my career, I was a sports reporter, which is also very tough industry, high dropout rate, high burnout rate also. I loved it, but it's definitely something that suits people in their early 20s without any ties and everything. My goal was always to come back to Kansas City, so I finally made it back to Kansas City to a TV station here, and they started having layoffs. So I kind of had some warning that, okay, this is coming. What am I going to do when it's my turn to get laid off? And I knew I didn't want to move again. And in TV, you sign 2-year contracts and then you move basically every 2 to 3 years until you've kind of reached the peak of your career. So I knew I would have to move again. And I just didn't want to leave Kansas City. So I decided, well, what can I do outside of TV? I've never done anything outside of TV. And a friend of mine, friend of a friend, connected me with someone that had a job opening at a senior living community. So I went and did sales at a senior living community, and I loved it. I would have stayed there forever. My clients, I cried 3 days a week, just either touched or tears of joy or whatever, but it was awesome. I learned that I'm good at sales. I really enjoyed sales and I love people. I already knew I loved people. But 2020 then came along and I had my first child in March of 2020. So the worst timing ever. We went into the hospital in one world and came out into a different world. And
what day was your baby born?
March 22nd. So literally
after the lockdown started.
Yeah. In Missouri, we were kind of behind. So there were still people going to work and stuff when we went into the hospital on the 19th, I think. And when we left the hospital, it was like, oh, there's no cars on the road. This is so weird.
That's crazy.
So it was wild. Yeah, it was insanity. So before I had her pre-COVID, went to my employer and was like, can I work from home? This is sales. A big chunk of it is phone calls and emails. And they were like, no, that's not our culture. We want everyone in the office 5 days a week. And I was like, okay. And then COVID happened and miraculously they worked from home for 3 months. And so after that, the day they went back to the office was the day I came back from my maternity leave. So of course my maternity leave coincided with the work from home. But so I was like, okay, great. Well, we can work from home now. And they were like, no, that's still not our culture. And I was like, okay, I respect that. You can do that, but that's not my culture. So I looked elsewhere. I was like, what can I do that will pull from my sales skills? And I really would like to pull on my TV skills again and the creativity that I haven't been able to scratch in this job. And real estate was just a really natural fit for me. My dad's an entrepreneur. I always have kind of had that gene and reached out to an agent that I knew from my work at this senior living community. And the rest is history.
Okay, so first of all, one of my favorite sports journalists of all time is Jason Whitlock. Do you know who Jason Whitlock is?
Yes, Kansas Citian. Yep.
He was in the Kansas City Star for a long time. And of course, now he works for the Blaze and has his own podcast called Fearless, which if you're not listening to it, it's fantastic. But he always takes a different angle when he's doing sports information. So every time I hear Kansas City, I'm like, I love Jason Whitlock. And then the second thing I have to point out is when we look at people coming to real estate from other fields, you very seldom hear somebody talk about how they have a good creative eye for marketing. Usually we have people that say that they do have an entrepreneurial bent or they have good sales skills. You've got that piece that agents need and seldom recognize that they have it until they're deep into the business and they start to bring it to life. So I love that you see real estate as a creative outlet. Talk to me about that a little bit as to what got you focused on the marketing aspect. Did it come from the competitive space of sales and journalism, or there's a competitive space in senior living? Did you look at it as a way to overachieve on the sales side? Or talk to me about that a little bit, because I'm so interested in that piece, because it's the mark of a really successful agent figures that out at some point. Most don't figure it out until at least 5 years in, what their brand is going to look like. You're far ahead of the curve. I'm so intrigued.
Yeah, well, I don't do anything halfways. If I'm going to do something, I'm like, I am going to be the best. And to a fault, like sometimes I'm like, if I'm not the best, then I'm going to quit. It's kind of a flaw that I have. So I went into real estate like with every intention of immediately becoming the best, which is not realistic, but definitely had early success. And I was like, I have to do something different. I know lots of agents do lots of things the same way. What do I have that no one else has? And it's those TV skills. It's the on-camera presence. It's the ability to edit. It's the storytelling capabilities. So that's immediately what I went to. The first thing I did was launch a YouTube channel and then kind of eventually stumbled into TikTok. So I would say it took me about a year to really find my footing and my brand. But then as soon as my brand clicked, I was like, oh, okay, so your brand is just you publicly facing. And then ever since then, it's just really become very naturally to me.
I love that. And it's just so funny. You said, oh, it took a year, like a year is forever. Yet we still have probably 96% of the real estate world that refuses to make a video because they say, oh, I don't know what to say. I don't like how I look. I'm too old, too fat, too young, too whatever. They make up a zillion excuses that are just the weakest water on the planet. When the reality is we all do have a different story to tell. And especially you coming out of that TV world, I didn't know that you would max get a 2-year contract, although I should expect that after watching the morning show on Apple TV. Are you watching that or have you watched it?
No, I want to so bad. I know I would love it.
It's a little bit dark, which I didn't expect, a little bit dark because I like happy endings, but it's amazingly good, binge-worthy TV. But it's obviously in the world, you'll understand the world better than I did. But when you look at the short amount of time that 2 years is, you're constantly living on the edge of, I may or may not have any future here very shortly, which is very similar to real estate, because by the time you get a client, I've got somebody, they're going to sell something, I'm going to be out of work again. We're always starting over. Did that give you a sense of, I don't know, peace and calm that other people don't have who are used to a paycheck, knowing that, man, if I'm going to have to recreate myself in TV, I may as well recreate myself in real estate more frequently?
Yes, kind of. In TV, a lot of people don't realize how underpaid local reporters are. Unless you're the weatherman or the main anchor, the pay is very mediocre, if not poor.
Wait a minute, weathermen get paid more than other people? Like, is that a premier spot?
Almost across the board, the meteorologist makes the most money because people pick their TV station they watch based on the weatherman they like the best.
Really? I didn't know that.
Most people do, yeah. And they, have the most important job in terms of like keeping people safe, live, in action. Like, hey, there's a tornado coming, like kind of thing. So
that is who I follow on Twitter. I follow Weather Brad. I don't follow any of the anchors. It's never occurred to me, but yeah, he's Weather Brad, WX Brad, which I didn't know weather was WX. It started his Twitter handle. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I'm following the TV station because of the weatherman, even though he's seldom right, because I like his total weather nerd. Okay,
Yeah.
so he's got a brand too. Okay, it never occurred to me. I'm like processing in real time that weathermen have a brand, just like we do in real estate. Rachel, keep going. This is so
Yeah, breaking news. Yeah. And meteorologists have a science background too. So they have the extra thing. But so shout out to all the meteorologists out there. But
we didn't know you people were amazing. Rachel is uncovering a secret world out there. Okay. This is
yeah,
I
exactly.
can't wait to talk to my parents now because, older people love the weather, which feeds into your senior living thing. So I got to find out which weatherman
they'll know. They'll tell you exactly which one. Absolutely, they will. But
okay.
but yeah,
well, you don't make as much as a weatherman, and I totally distracted you there.
I was used to living off of nothing and happy to do so because I loved my job so much. And then when I got into sales, I started making a little money, and I was like, well, this is fun. This is nice. But it was half base pay and then half commission. So it's kind of the best of both worlds. And then going into straight commission was frightening for me because I am kind of a financially driven person. I like to feel secure and safe, but we're trying to grow our team. And as I get to talking to new agents and stuff, I always want to acknowledge the place of privilege I was in to quit a good job and go cold turkey into no income because I had a partner with a steady income and I had the financial safety that I'm not going to starve or lose my house over this. So I was want to acknowledge that there is a real barrier, even though real estate is the lowest barrier, highest ceiling industry there is still a barrier in that you have to be able to jump in cold turkey without any safety net. And in order to do that, you do really have to have a safety net, even if it's not your own. So
like me, I waited tables at night when I got in because I knew I could make money waiting tables and supplement. But of course, that's double the hours. And I didn't have a husband and kids at the time. So if you're a single mom, I'm always amazed. I just jaw-droppingly amazed at the number of single moms that get into real estate and they scratch and claw and work their batucuses off and they make it with no safety net. It's I just admire that to the nth degree because they don't sleep at night.
I'm a single mom now. So yeah, but when I started, I had a partner with an income. So, I always just say, yes, pull up your bootstraps and work hard.
But again, people don't know that when you watch Stelling Sunset makes my eyes bleed because it's so vapid, but you don't see any of them eating ramen noodles. And what I was writing down here that you said was that you were happy to live on nothing because you loved it when you were in that job. And I think that's a really important thing to consider when we're looking at, the TikToks of people who are not happy with anything. Maybe they'd be happy on nothing if they were doing something they loved, even though nobody really wants to have nothing. We all want to have that. And I love that you position it as the financial security. It's not about having, fancy pocketbooks. It's, I want to know my bills are paid. But if you love what you're doing, you will make do with ramen noodles and stale bagels because it's fulfilling. And there's something really fulfilling about real estate. So in your first 3 years, I'm so interested to know, because you came in during the COVID era and it was already picking up when you got in. And then it went from picked up to white hot, stupid market that none of us old guard had ever seen, but it became all that you knew. And so for you, the stupid market was the normal market. So how have you reacted in the last, I'd say, I guess it's really been about 15 months now since rates started to climb, which put a damper on the market. How have you reacted to a changing market?
Yeah, it's been really challenging for me because I'm hard on myself, where I have a listing that when it sits for 7 days, I'm like, what's wrong with me? What did I do wrong? Oh my gosh. And sellers are acting the same way a lot of times because they don't know how the market has changed. All they heard is this is the best market in history. Let's sell my house. And then all of a sudden it's we have to adjust expectations. So I've learned a lot about the conversations that you have up front with clients to make sure they understand the market before you get into it. Are you sure you want to sell? Because I want you to know it's not going to sell this weekend kind of thing. But personally, my volume was down about 7% this year. I'm really thrilled with that. Last year was a better year than I ever could have dreamed of. And then this year I'm down only 7% considering how much the market went down. I'm thrilled with that. My units is way down, 40% down. I just happened to have my average sale price went up a lot last year to this year. So it's just been trying to give myself grace, trying to be realistic about what the market's doing and pulling on my mentors. Hey, how should I handle this? Hey, what's the normal thing to do here in a previous market? But I think I've really enjoyed it to a certain extent, that it's not the chaos of there's a house on the market, run, go, 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 go. I can like, okay, I'll see you tomorrow at 7. Like, it doesn't have to be, let me go dump my child off at grandma's and sprint over there like it used to be. So for the most part, I've enjoyed it. I think it's better for agents. I think it's better for most clients too. Even though it's more expensive, buyers have time to think, process, make good decisions. Sellers can still sell for great money. They just have to be patient and be really strategic about how they list. So overall, I've adjusted well to it, but it definitely has been a big change.
Which is so funny because it's all perspective. And traditionally in real estate, a balanced market is 6 months of inventory. And we haven't seen 6 months of inventory anywhere except I think Austin, Texas is approaching 5 months as we record this in December of 23. So they're approaching a balanced market. But if you were accustomed to houses selling in the first 5 hours with a passel of offers, the idea of something taking 6 months to sell, for you, you'd be thinking, that house must be on the highway and just a disaster zone for nobody to buy it. And so it's all perspective. But the thing that strikes me about what you just said there is you're leaning on your mentors. That is a hard thing for entrepreneurs to do because after we have this much success, and in real estate, I always define that as the first 3 houses you sell, your ego kind of takes off. You're like, oh, I got this. And the harder thing is to go back and say, maybe I don't know everything. So maybe somebody could pour into me. Where did you find those mentors and how did you approach them? Because I find that to be a hang up for a lot of early career agents. They would love to have somebody to ask, but they don't know how to start the conversation or how to find the right fit because not everybody is a good mentor fit. Can you tell us about that process?
Yeah, well, I like to think of myself as a lifelong learner and a very curious person. And I hope I never think I've arrived on anything in terms of knowledge and information. When I started my sports broadcasting career, I reached out to the local Royals post-game reporter on Twitter. And I was like, hey, I want to do what you do someday. Like, how do I become you? And he was so gracious and responded and was like, well, come job shadow me. So I was 19 and rolled on up to Kauffman Stadium and got to go in the truck, got to go in the booth, got to see the press box and followed him around for the day. And that was in 2012. And we're still in touch now. And he really helped launch my sports broadcasting career. And I was like, wow, that was so cool. But then once I got to a point where people were reaching out to me, I was like, well, it's so rewarding. Of course I would respond. So I think it's just human nature. Most people are kind. Most people want to help other people. So if you ask in a way that's respectful of their time and, understanding that people are busy, I think almost always the answer is going to be yes. And if the answer is no, then okay, move on. In the real estate world, my mentor is the team that I joined. I truly don't know how agents do it without a team when you're first starting.
Amen.
That's my number one piece of advice. Join a team. There's all kinds of teams. There's going to be one that suits your needs because every shape, size, format, like there's going to be a team. I just can't imagine. So my mentor was the agent that I referred my business to when I was at the senior living community. So I had seen how good she was. And that's who I went straight to. And she and her partner had been a duo for like 15 years, 20 years. And they've been selling now for a combined like 70 years between the two of them. And they had never brought someone on that wasn't one of their own kids. So they were so gracious to not only bring me on, let me just crack open their brains and swim around in there and ask them questions all day long. And they were so open to my ideas in marketing. They had never really done a lot of marketing because they were the old school referral base. Their business just came to them. And I'm like, that's not going to work for me, guys. I got to market. Are you okay with that? And they were like, goat yoga? Sure, let's do it. Cookie dough truck? Okay. And so like every like crazy idea I threw off the wall, they were on board with, which is just a testament to them because they could easily have been like, that's not how we did it. It's not going to work. And we're not open to it.
That's not our culture.
Exactly. So it's been an awesome relationship for all three of us. I think we've all learned from each other, but definitely I have learned from them far more. And to this day, we'll pick up the phone and call them almost every day. Like, hey, how do I deal with this client? And it's an awesome asset to have.
But you say that you're very sure that you've gotten more than they have. I bet you $1, if I had them on here, they'd be saying, oh, we have gotten more from Rachel than we have ever given to her because the perspective is coming from the well of experience that you have. And your well of experience in broadcasting and marketing and sales is an entirely different well than their well of real estate experience. And so how energizing for them that they get this new perspective that just builds everybody up. But as you said, it's a testament to them that they're willing to say, absolutely, why not give it a shot and recognize that Rachel brings her own set of value to all of us in a way that grows. So you got adopted basically as the non-family member of the team. If you are remotely awake, then you know that we are heading into some really tricky economic times. We have home buyers that have put the kibosh on buying. We have sellers who have found out suddenly their houses aren't dipped in 14 karat gold. And as a realtor, you are still trying to keep up with the business you have and trying to answer questions in the meantime while also managing sky high fuel cost at the pump. Never fear, because my new video course is coming out right now, and it's called How to Dominate During a Recession. I've been a realtor for 22 years. My business went up every year during the Great Recession, and it's all because of education. This course is 4 modules. There might even be some bonus content for you. The price is $199. I am delighted to bring this out as quickly as possible because, friends, there's no time like the present to make sure our neighbors are stronger and we protect the American dream. Click on this link, www.dominatethisrecession.com, and I'll see you there. Now, back to this amazing content. I think you're just going to have to detour for a second and tell us about goat yoga. How did you incorporate goat yoga into the business? Was this a client event or in the front yard of a listing? Because I've heard of goat yoga. I haven't done it. I do want goats of my own, but my husband hasn't said yes yet, and he's going to come in the living room in a second and tell me to quit talking about goats. But I got to know how it got incorporated in your business.
Well, you tell him this, you'll monetize them. You're going to bring a yoga.
I can monetize the goats.
Yeah, exactly. So it was a client event. My strategy with client events is like, I want to do something that people wouldn't be able to do or wouldn't think to do on their own. I want to create something that gives the social media buzz. They're going to post a picture of it, and something that's really fun and memorable. So we try to think of like the crazy zany things. And yeah, goat yoga was one of them. That was a limited capacity event. We ran out of spots. And yeah, you just like strike a yoga pose and they'll like give you the goat to hold while you're doing your pose, or the goat will like climb up on you. So it's really more for just like pictures and laughs than like actual like namaste or whatever, but it was super fun.
Okay, you've said namaste, and I'm going to give you a homework assignment that's going to make you laugh so hard you might pee on yourself. Google namaste in Whole Foods. There's an article that was written. It's got to be at least 10 years old. And this woman, you'll die reading the article, but you'll find a Whole Foods story about namaste. And it's my favorite yoga story ever, but except I'm going to have to do a goat yoga event this year. I can guarantee my team is going to hear about this and be like, oh, when are we doing one? So thanks, Rachel. Thanks a lot. All right. So the premise of our show, of course, is crazy shit in real estate. And I've already taken you down a couple pathways because I love your story. But my viewers and listeners really like to hear some of the crazy things that you've seen. And it can be sad, happy, poignant, jaw-dropping, disgusting. I'd love to know what you've seen in your first 3 years that made you say, this was not on TV.
Yeah, well, the selling sunset comment made me laugh because every time I do something disgusting, I always joke like, this is my selling sunset. Like recently there was a dead mouse in a listing. And so I got a business card and scooped it up and threw it outside. And I looked at my client and I was like, yeah, selling sunset, right? You know, like.
Oh, wait a minute. Did you leave that business card on the counter to indicate that you'd been there? Please say you threw that card away.
No, I threw it away. Okay. Actually, it wasn't my card. It was someone else's card they had left in the listing.
I mean, so it was really reduce, reuse, recycle. It was a sustainable use of the business card.
Yeah, exactly. It was closed. But yeah, anyways, the craziest thing that happened to me, we have a new agent that had a really bad deal recently. And she was like, I'm so scared about the review. This client's going to leave me. And so I sent her the worst review I've ever gotten. And I was like, get a load of this. You'll be fine.
What's the worst review you've ever gotten? Was it somebody?
I've only had one. Yeah, it's just a dude, of course. And it was bad. He just basically thought that I was working against him. It was a mobile home that had been affixed to a foundation, and we were able to sell it via FHA loan, which is a miracle in and of itself.
Good job.
It required some things to be done. We need screens on the windows. We need stuff. So he thought that I was working against him because I kept having to ask him for things. I'm like, I am trying to sell your house. That's what you hired me to do. So it's just one of those things you just chalk up and like, that's a you problem, not a me problem, and move on. But the craziest shit that I've dealt with is literal shit. The very first listing I had was this sweet, sweet man, bachelor, had never been married, no kids, kind of had this log cabin situation. And we got it closed. At inspections, they hadn't gone up in the attic. And I was like, well, that's kind of weird. If they would have asked us, we would have let them. There was no like access panel. They would have had to cut a panel, but we would have let them cut a panel. They didn't ask. So post-closing, I get a text from the buyer's agent that's like, SOS, we have an emergency. I want to say this was Christmas Eve too. Like Christmas Eve, I'm pretty sure it was like 10 p.m. emergency. you know how it goes. And the emergency is that there is a colony of raccoons that call this attic home, and literal mounds of poop up to your waist height of raccoon poop.
Waist height?
Waist high mountains of raccoon poop. They've been living in this attic for God knows how long. And they found out because they cut into the crown molding because they were going to take it off for some reason. And it started dripping down the wall. And so I call my seller and I'm like, did you know about this? Like, have you ever heard raccoons? And he's like, oh yeah, the raccoons, like they love it there because we're in the woods. He always lived with raccoons in his attic and he just like was happy to allow them to live there. And I was
That's
like,
not normal. That's not normal.
You had to disclose that. When it says pest, it means all pests, you know? And so my broker, of course, is like, this is not your fault. Wash your hands of this. You did not know. So we connected the clients and let them work it out amongst themselves. But he was not trying to be malicious. He just was a kind of a mountain man and just, it was normal to him. So I was like, oh, so now every time I go over a seller's disclosure, I go, do you know what pests means? It doesn't just mean mice, you know? So you learn that once the hard way and then never make that mistake again. But yeah, mountains of raccoon poop.
Okay, so now I'm thinking about every little video I've ever watched on Instagram Reels, of course, right? Not TikTok. Of the little raccoons, and they obsessively wash their little hands, but they will poop in a mound as high as your waist. So how do they keep their little hands clean and also climb up a pile of poop to poop some more? This is an unknown thing about the animal kingdom, and I would rather not know it, frankly, but here we are.
Well, at least I think they're like kind of organized. You know, this corner's our bathroom, so that's where our mountain of poop is. So we don't poop in the other parts of our little attic house. But
I do love what you did, though. And that's one of the marks of a truly professional realtor. Okay, we've encountered poop, and here we are. And we've encountered raccoons. What do I do on the next house? And so it just changes how you position what pests are. And we encounter in North Carolina, because we are number one, hey, what's up for damage caused by termites? We're the number one termite damage state. So when we talk about what some agents want to call the termite letter, we have to say it's actually the wood destroying insect letter, because it also includes powder post beetles and carpenter ants, and there's things besides termites that can eat your house. But that all comes from having a house that had powder post beetles in the bandsill, just like your pests include raccoons and colonies of raccoons. And dear Mr. Seller, that's not normal.
Yeah, God bless him.
He wasn't freaked out by this. I would freak out if I found out there was a colony of raccoons in my attic. I mean, wouldn't you freak out?
He knew. He's like, oh yeah, I hear them scurrying around up there. Like they just, okay. Like lovely, lovely human. And I didn't ever ask how they settled, but I know he would have done the right thing. So I'm sure he made it right for them. But yeah, I was like, okay, now I know. You learn in real estate, not everyone has the same standard of living as you do. So you have to really over communicate on things that you assume would be normal, and they're not.
Love that. The standard of living is different. The perspective is different. Where people come from is different. Like you said, if you're a property out in the woods, you're going to see things differently than an urban dweller is. And that's not bad or wrong. It's just perspective. And I think that's one of the superheroes of realtors is the ability to adapt to other people's perspectives in a pretty generally kind and neutral way. And I love that about our people. All right. So Rachel, are you going to stay in real estate for the long haul, do you think? Does this feel like you found your home?
I'm here. We're just starting. We have just like scratched the tip of the iceberg. We're building out systems. We're building out a team. Like, yeah, I'm here. I'm in it. I'm so excited. I think like, oh, I'm only 3 years in. I'm already here. Man, what if I would have started 5 years sooner? So picturing myself 5-10 years down the road is super exciting for me.
So are you involved at KCRAR yet, the Kansas City Regional Association of Realtors? Are you volunteering there yet?
I'm a member. I'm not volunteering. No, I'm a single mom and running a business, and I'm on city council. So I kind of spend my volunteer hours here locally in my hometown, and my schedule's at max capacity. So eventually someday, maybe.
Okay. So which town are you on city council for? This is, of course, going to have to make this a long episode because I'm addicted to politics. So tell me about this.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I am in a small town just east of downtown Kansas City. It's 25 miles east of downtown. It's called Oak Grove, Missouri. And I grew up here and then came back because I always knew I would. My family all lives here. I don't know if I'll stay forever, but for now it's really great because I just have so much community here. And yeah, I'm an alderwoman for Ward 1. We have a 6-member city council and 4 of the 6 are women, and our mayor is female as well. So it's super fun energy. We're all very like creative thinkers and ask the hard questions, and really all have very widely varying kind of political backgrounds, and which makes for great conversation. And I think it like serves our community really well.
Preach on with that, because if everybody agrees on everything, y'all, that's boring. We're supposed to bring in different ideas and perspectives and have vibrant conversations where we agree and disagree and still work together. So as a single mom who's doing real estate, how did you come to the decision that it would be an important way to spend your time to serve in an elected office where obviously in real estate, we're told all the time to be super neutral, blah, blah, blah. But I also know that if real estate people aren't at the table, then there's often a missing perspective, because so many of the decisions that are made in the city council or in a county commission could really use a real estate perspective. How did you come to that decision? Have you always wanted to get into politics, or was it accidental?
It was kind of accidental. When everything went down in 2020 between COVID and Black Lives Matter and all that, it was like everyone was screaming into the void. And I was like, I don't even know how all this works. Who's in charge of what? Who makes what law? Who's in charge of the police force? What's the research behind their decisions? And so I went to the mayor in my town when I knew it's a small town, how do I get involved? I don't want to be the one screaming from the sidelines that is not educated. And so she appointed me to the Planning and Zoning Commission. And so
she's like, oh, there's a hand raised. Let me take that.
Oh. Yeah. In a small town, it's like, you can breathe. Okay, great. Like,
love her.
Yeah. So anyways, I started on that and really started to understand, okay, different kinds of zoning, which is very helpful for my real estate business. And just also being involved in the community is great for business too. Like, hey, I'm here. I made a choice to be in this community and would love to work with you because I love this community. And then just eventually led to city council. And honestly, I just had a phone call with someone yesterday that was interested in getting involved, and everyone's scared and thinks it takes so much time. And I'm like, it's 2 meetings a month. Usually it's 30 minutes. The longest we've had is 2 hours. And it is so rewarding to be involved. And like, okay, these are people's actual tax dollars. What are we actually doing with them and why? So I love it. I wouldn't change it. I think it's a great thing to role model to my child, that we don't nag at people from the sidelines. We get involved, we get educated, and try to learn and make the world a better place.
I love this so much. So I'm going to have to make sure that we tag Kip Cooper, who's the CEO of KCRAR, in this, and that we tag Brianna, who's the CEO of Missouri Realtors, and let's see, Karen Gailey, who's the CEO of Kansas Realtors. We're going to have to make sure that all of them know that they have a wonderful member who is serving at the grassroots level to make our community better, because that's good for everybody in real estate. So thank you for doing that. How exciting.
Thank you. I love it. Yeah, I love it.
All right. So Rachel, if somebody wants to reach out to you because they want to learn more about you, your experience, or just bring you a referral to the area you serve, what's the best way for them to reach you?
I'm all over the internet at Rach the Realtor KC, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. My website's rachtherealtorkc.com. And I also just launched 4 e-courses that are basically just like a brain dump of everything I've learned in my first 3 years that I think is great, especially for agents starting out, that it's not I'm not speaking from the mountaintop. I'm speaking from like just 2 steps ahead of you. So hopefully it's really helpful information that can be found at my website as well.
Love that. So friends, all the links to everything she just mentioned are in the show notes for this episode. So feel free to follow and reach out and build some more connectivity. Rachel, thank you so much for coming on the show and for giving us a whole bunch of different angles, and welcome to the conversations I like to have.
Yeah, thank you. It was so fun. I really enjoyed it. I appreciate you having me. And get those goats.
I mean, my husband, I know he's listening to this in the background. I'm going to win the goat battle, but you always have to have at least 2 because they're community animals. And so I'm going to build a community of goats in my yard to go along with the chickens. It'll be fine.
Just don't let them in your house.
I got my picture on the wall, but there's no goat. There's a sheep on that one. I don't want any sheep. I want goats because they're more fun for the internet.
Yes. Love it. I love it.
All right. Well, friends, say something nice about Rachel in the comments. Give her a high five for serving in elected office in a place where we desperately need more realtors bringing their perspective. Follow and subscribe to the show, and most importantly, come back and we'll see you next time.
As always, I'm so super thrilled that you joined in for more crazy shit. And if you're a realtor, investor, inspector, lender, or just a regular human being who happens to have an unbelievable story that you need to tell the world about, or frankly, you just need to one-up the story you just heard, then make sure to DM me on Instagram at Leigh Thomas Brown, or tweet me at Leigh Brown, or frankly, any social network where you hang out. I'm there. And if you have some fun, then you totally want to subscribe so you don't miss out on any future episodes.